S nimi alebo bez nich. S nami alebo proti nám.
Je to veľmi výnimočný rok.
Spolu alebo o samote. Teplo alebo teplejšie. Zostať alebo odísť. Tvoja voľba.
Dobrý deň prajem všetkým. A na začiatok by som rada iba upozornila, že táto diskusia sa dnes bude konať v anglickom jazyku a v tom budem aj pokračovať. Hello, good afternoon to all of our viewers today. I'm really glad to welcome you to the discussion on the role of music and the fight for freedom. I do hope and firmly believe that many of you have already seen the amazing documentary from Lucia Kašová, The Orchestra from the Land of Silence, which was filmed for the Pohoda Festival, which is also cooperating with us on this discussion. If not, I really highly recommend watching it. It will explain a lot from what we will also talk about today. Also, I would like to apologize. We do have quite a delay in our discussion because our guests are joining us from all over the world. So if there are any little mix-ups, please just carry on and stay with us. This is the reason for it. Moving on, I would really like to welcome my guests today. First of all, Dr. Ahmad Zarmast, the founder and leader of the first Afghan women's orchestra, Zohra. Good evening, Dr. Zarmast. Good afternoon.
Good evening to you.
And also the two ladies sitting next to him, Marcia and Mina, young musicians and also characters in the documentary movie Orchestra from the Land of Silence. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hi everyone, my name is Mina and I'm cello and the ruba player of Afghanistan National Institute of Music.
Thank you. Marcia, would you like to say some words also for the beginning?
My name is Marcia. I'm part of the Zohra Orchestra and also I play viola and I'm the conductor of Zohra Orchestra.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to welcome Mozdah Jamalzadeh. I hope I say that right. An Afghan activist, a singer, and musician who fled Afghanistan with her family as a child, but later returned and now is actively fighting for women's rights and freedom. Good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you too. I say afternoon, evening, but all of you have different timelines, so I hope it's okay.
That is true.
And last but not least, Lucia Kašová, the director of the movie Orchestra from the Land of Silence. Good evening, Lucia.
Good evening, dobrý deň.
And my name is Frederick Halasova, and I work for the humanitarian organization People in Need Slovakia, which also organizes the One World Festival, and I will take you through this discussion today. So let's start with the movie, since we already mentioned it. Lucia, how did you decide to film this documentary, and how much time did you spend in Afghanistan?
Yes, I make films for Pohoda Festival for past 2 years, and we plan to do the third one. But as they were moving along with the production, and they booked Orchestra Zohra, and as they were finding out how difficult it is to bring them to Europe, and they got more engaged in the issues in Afghanistan and what it really meant for Afghan people and how unique this orchestra was. So we decided, instead of a festival movie, we're gonna make a film about orchestra. And this was quite late in the process, so we decided maybe 2-3 weeks before we actually went to Afghanistan. So it was, very fast. And we spent there something about a week, less than a week, I think.
Mm-hmm. What was your experience from Afghanistan? Did you went there with any expectations, or were you surprised by anything? And how was your time with the girls right there in Kabul?
Yeah, and the time with the girls was amazing. They welcomed us in their school, in their home, and everybody was really, really nice and welcoming. So that was great. They live, inside these like big walls, and it's like a freedom island inside. Walking around outside was like a little bit dangerous, so we had to be pretty careful.
Thank you. I would just like to, I forgot to say one thing. All our viewers that are watching this live can also ask questions, and I will get to them in the end of the discussion. You can use the application Slido, and our hashtag is in Slovak, hashtag úloha hudby. So you can use that and post your questions. I see them on the other screen and can ask them later. Thank you. I would continue with Marcia and Mina. How did you feel to be in a movie? How was your experience with the whole process of making this documentary?
Well, it feels really good, and it also helped us to connect with the Slovakian people in Slovakia. It was really good experience.
You also went, we can see that in the movie, that you went to play at the Pohoda Festival here in Slovakia. How did you find our country? How did you enjoy your time here?
Of course, it was really good. I love the people. People really welcome us, and Slovakia is really beautiful country, and also the people.
If I may ask also, Marcia, what did you want the viewers to learn about Zohra from the movie, for example? What would you like the people to know about the orchestra? And you can talk to Dr. Zarmast, and he can translate if it's better for you.
Okay. ما میخوایم که مردم از اینکه ویدیو را میبینن این را بیاموزن که با وجود تمام مشکلاتی که ما داریم ما بازم باید مبارزه کنیم. هیچ وقت روی خود از دست ندیم. ما میتونیم. ما میخوایم مردم بفهمن درباره افغانستان، یعنی ارکستر زهره از افغانستان است و نه تنها مردم دیگه کشورها بلکه مردم افغانستان هم میتونن موسیقی کار کنن و بخی ها اثر بگیم.
Do you has? We lost the connection for a few minutes.
It's okay, we heard everything.
خب بفهمن که یعنی دخترای افغان هم میتونن یک کاری کنن و خوب توانایی از این دارن که موسیقی کار کنن. با وجود تمام مشکلاتی که دارن بازم میتونن مبارزه کنن.
I want the audience to learn from our story that Afghan girls, in spite of many challenges that we are facing here, we are not giving up, and we will continue our fight to have access to music and music education and to be part of music making in this country.
Thank you very much. I think what we also see in the documentary and what all of you show with your work and your activities is that music or arts as in itself are a really powerful tool for fighting for freedom. Mozdach, if I may ask you now, which came first for you, music or activism?
For me, it was definitely activism that came first. But once I got into music, I couldn't stop. It's very addictive, and it's probably the most beautiful thing that I've experienced. And just feeling privileged that, I could actually continue my activism through music, because music is so peaceful, it's universal, and it reaches everyone and everywhere. So it's a very, very powerful tool to be able to use to make a difference, or let your voice be heard. So it is very powerful, and I'm just very, very happy that I'm able to continue my activism through music. It was definitely activism that came first.
Thank you. Dr. Zarmast, I think for you, music came first, if I'm not mistaken.
I strongly believe in the soft power of music. When we are talking about activism and music, I strongly believe that two are complementing each other and they are inseparable. For us here in Afghanistan, while we are promoting music and music education, but at the same time, we are using the soft power of music to empower the young girls of Afghanistan, but generally to give an alternative to the people of Afghanistan, their fight against international terrorism. I strongly believe that the people of Afghanistan can succeed to have a peaceful country and to have and to keep their freedom when we give an alternative to the people of Afghanistan, an alternative to what the Taliban and the other radical forces are giving to their supporters. From our perspective, music and education are the strongest and the most powerful alternative that will enable the people of Afghanistan to move forward.
Maybe to explain a little bit to our viewers, music was forbidden for years during the reign of Taliban in Afghanistan. Also, it was forbidden for girls and women to study. I would be very curious as to what is the situation right now, Dr. Zarmast. How is it these days?
You probably gathered information from the media that right now the government of Afghanistan and the Taliban are involved in a peace talks in the Qatar, in Doha, the capital of Qatar, But this peace talks, while at that stage is not moving anywhere, and it's more of a disappointment to the people of Afghanistan that gives any hope to us. But on the other end, it also raises the concern among the ordinary people of Afghanistan that maybe the peace talks will open the paths for the Taliban to come and to join the government. And by the arrival of the Taliban, the people of Afghanistan might face once again the same draconian policies and restrictions that was imposed on the people, including silencing the entire nation, depriving the entire nation from their musical identity, and also depriving the entire nation from their musical rights. That concern is currently there, but we strongly believe in the wisdom of the Afghan people and the changes that has been brought up in Afghanistan. The Afghanistan of 2020 is not the Afghanistan of 1996. The youths of Afghanistan of 2020, they are not the youths of 1996. The country entirely changed. The people of Afghanistan are much more open-minded and having access to the social media and to the international community, which is enormous, which plays a significant role in enlightening the people of Afghanistan and also educating the people of Afghanistan about their rights. And therefore, while we are concerned, or generally there's a concern within the community that the Taliban might join, and the women of Afghanistan as well, as generally the people of Afghanistan might be facing the same restriction and silence. But we strongly believe that the situation is changed, and the youth of Afghanistan will not going to sacrifice their freedom, and also to let anyone to return the wheel of history backward.
Thank you very much. I very much hope so also. Lucia, you said that when you were filming the documentary, the goal changed a little bit, the process changed. What do you see as the main message of your movie?
Well, I think girls, especially Marcia, summed it up pretty well. I mean, as a documentary maker, you can just wish for like such a strong messages that work so much, and like people can feel them. So I hope like my film showed the reality of the orchestra in Afghanistan, and when they're traveling abroad, and what they're doing is really life-changing for the country. And for the maybe to shift the knowledge of people.
Thank you. Dr. Zarmast, you said in one of your interviews that music is also a tool for fighting against poverty and fundamental changes in society, as you also described now. I would be very curious, girls, what does music mean for you personally? Any of you can start.
I lost you for a few seconds. I did not get the question. Would you please repeat the question?
Of course. I was asking the girls, what does music mean for them personally?
موسیقی بر شما و زندگی شخصیتون چه جای داره؟
موسیقی بخشی از زندگی، یعنی حال فعلا که ما موسیقی کار میکنیم بخشی از زندگی ما شده. یعنی ما فکر میکنیم اگر موسیقی از ما گرفته شود، فکر میکنیم بخشی از زندگی ما گرفته میشه. موسیقی به معنای زندگی فعلا به ما، و ما موسیقی را دوست داریم. خب قسمی که گفتم موسیقی بخش از زندگی ما شده و به ما روحیه میده. وقتی که ما موسیقی کار میکنیم فکر خود آرام میکنیم و توسط موسیقی خود یعنی دخترای دیگر هم تشویق میکنیم تا بیاین موسیقی کار کنن و فکر مردم تغییر میدیم توسط موسیقی خود. ای و ما یک موسیقی خلاصه در مجموع موسیقی یعنی زندگی.
و به مردم بفهمانیم که موسیقی چیز بد نیست، موسیقی را باید درک کنیم.
Marzia is of the opinion that music is part of her life. And music is for her a tool for delivering her messages. Music is also, according to Marzia, a mean that they can deliver their messages to the community and also to stand for their rights. Music, in other words, Marzia says that empowers us to stand for our grounds and to stand for our rights. In other words, music is a life.
Would Mina like to add anything?
Music, you can speak English.
Well, music means life for all of us, and we can connect each world, each country with music.
Thank you very much. Mosdaq, you also use music, but you used also other means. You even have your own show in Afghanistan for more than 2 years, which resembled a little the Oprah show from the US. How would you describe those years during which you were filming this show in Afghanistan? What were maybe the most memorable parts of that era for you?
Well, Frederick, before I answer your question about my show in particular, I wanted to just point out what Lucia did is so important for her to bring awareness on an international level and to different parts of the world about what's going on in Afghanistan, about what Dr. Zarmast is doing, and about what these amazing girls are doing. And I just want to say that Dr. Zarmast is a national hero. He's taking a huge risk, and he's always done so throughout building of this orchestra and this music school. And these girls, I'm completely, it's an absolute honor to be just in their presence and everything that they're doing in Afghanistan. They're really heroes. And I really think that there is, music is the way to peace. And they're using music, for activism and to speak out and to fight against injustice. And there are true heroes. So I just wanted to point that out before I go ahead and answer. And I just want to thank them from the bottom of my heart and, on behalf of Afghan people for what they do. It's a great risk that they're taking being inside Afghanistan and doing this. So regarding my TV show, it was, I actually decided to do something for Afghan women when I was watching the news here and watching what was going on and what the Taliban were doing and all of the oppression and struggles that the entire nation, but specifically women were facing and girls were facing in Afghanistan, where they no longer were allowed to attend school. They were no longer allowed to be a part of society in general. They had their basic human rights stripped from them. And this broke my heart. And I saw myself as one of those girls. I said, what if I was there at that time? And here I am, very fortunate to be in a country like Canada where there are opportunities and even equality. And I never thought of myself differently than my brothers or my male counterparts. And so I thought, how unfair for millions of women and girls to be suppressed and not be able to have the freedoms and the opportunities that I have here. And what can I do to give back? And, this was a reminder from my parents as well. Every day they were reminding me how lucky I was and that I should take the opportunities given to me here to give back to the country that I left behind. And so that became my ultimate goal. And I was a shy, introverted girl who didn't know about music. I didn't even know how to tune a radio until I was in the 8th grade. And so I decided, it wasn't actually my decision, but my father brought this to my attention and said, the media is the most powerful tool that you can use to send a message, like Marzia said, like Dr. Zarmast is doing. They're using music to send a message and bring a change, a positive, powerful change. And so when I realized that, I had to put aside my shyness and just really come out of my comfort zone and really do this. And I decided music was going to be the way for me to do something for the women of Afghanistan. And that's when the show started, because through my music, they had, heard about me, and One TV at that time was just launching, and they said, would you like to host a show? And at that time, it was supposed to be Afghanistan's Got Talent, but my mom, she went and spoke with them and said, I'd rather have my daughter host something that is meaningful, that has a message that makes a difference. And so we decided to present the concept of the Oprah show, because we were both obsessed with the Oprah show. And they watched clips of the Oprah show. They fell in love with it. The producers, directors, everyone was on board. They put Afghanistan's Got Talent to the side, and they decided to do this, where we discuss taboo subjects and discussions on, child abuse, domestic violence. And at the same time, we brought in music, and we had a live band with us. And we just combined everything, and it was a family show. And there were, the ages ranged from toddlers to grandparents who were coming to the show and watching from home. And so we decided to use that, and we had our very own Dr. Phil as well. He was this young gentleman who had been educated in the U.S. So it's and then we used skits, because in Afghanistan, you're not able to bring people with real problems to discuss their real problems on television. So we had to create skits using actors. And so they would, our Dr. Phil, Zaman Rajabi, he would kind of discuss, there was a skit, and then he would discuss the negative sides and negative impact of, for example, child abuse. And then we would show how it should be done, and then he would discuss the benefits and, the benefits even later on for that child if you just talk to them instead of hitting them. So there were all these things that we were able to do in Afghanistan. It went really well, and people were very involved, and they really loved it. And some female, I remember some women came to me and said that their husbands actually stopped beating their children, and that the show was really making a difference. And that was really huge for me.
This is actually what I wanted to ask you. What were the reactions? You mentioned this woman, but what were the reactions of the public to this show? Wasn't it something unexpected, unprecedented in that era?
Well, at that time, it wasn't really something that was, these taboo topics that we were discussing on television, in primetime television, were not even discussed within the households at that time. So it was very new, and many people loved it. But at the same time, we had the death threats coming in, and we had threats against the television station as well as against myself. But I loved the fact that they were so progressive in their way of thinking. And I had to fight for some of the topics that I wanted to discuss, but eventually they gave in, such as topics such as divorce or domestic violence. These were very important things. Over 90% of children in Afghanistan are abused in some form, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically. And there are many women who are being abused, and it has to do a lot with the war and the lack of education. And there's a lot that is lacking in Afghanistan, and you have to bring awareness in any way that you can. So the best part about it was that there were women that were coming to me and crying and just hugging me and holding me tight and saying, "Please don't stop. Just continue your show because you're making such a difference." And I could see that, from their eyes and from the emotion that I was feeling from them, I could sense that, possibly their husbands had even stopped beating them, even though they didn't want to say it out loud. So it was just, it was an amazing feeling to see that the show was really making a difference.
Thank you. You mentioned the threats, and if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Zarmast, you have also lived through many threats, and you have experienced even an explosion during one of the concerts, after which you have lost your hearing for a while. Where do you find the strength to continue to move on? Because these are not light things. This is very hard. This is life and death. Where do you find the strength to go on and continue with Zohra?
It is the smile of the children. It's the happiness that the Zohra Orchestra and generally the school delivers to the people of Afghanistan. It's the changes that we're delivering to the mentality of the people towards music. I remember back in 2010 and subsequent years, when we first began the Afghanistan National Institute of Music, whenever there was an activity carried out by our school, the reaction in the social media was extremely negative. And I remember back in 2010, when we established the school, there was only one girl enrolled. But thanks to the activities of the school and our commitment and the changes that we make in the community today, we've got around 1/3 of the school student body of girls. We have the all-women orchestra. Even in 2010, in order to create an environment for the girls and also giving opportunity to the girls in music making, especially to playing an instrument, it was an issue, and many people did not want their kids to study music. And we went to the orphanages to recruit girls for music education, to send a positive message about the ability of the girls in music and how music can change and empowers a young girl in Afghanistan. But nowadays, today, we're not only having a huge number of students, or 1/3 of the school students are girls, but now middle classes, upper classes, everyone trying to enroll their girls and their boys into music education. So we're changing the situation here, we're changing the attitude, but also if I'm going to conclude my comments about what gives us the strength and the energy, it's the smile and the happiness that we're delivering, first of all, to the children of Afghanistan, but secondly, the happiness and the messages that we're delivering to the people of Afghanistan about the freedom through music and musical pieces that we are releasing free of charges and giving to all Afghan media to broadcast it.
Thank you very much. Merci, Amina. I would like to ask you, how do your families perceive that you are educating yourselves in music? Are they supporting you?
فامیل ما مرا حمایت نمیکنن، ولی تا جایی که من تونستم پدر خود راضی کنم، پدرم نه موافق است و نه مخالف. خلاصه 50-50. چیزی برام نمیگه، میگه هر کاری که دلت میشه امورا بکن، امرایت کار ندارم، ولی مرا تشویقم نمیکنن. من بازم امید خود از دست نمیتونم موسیقی را پیش میبرم، چون من با هیچ کس زندگی نمیکنم، من با خود زندگی میکنم و من باید آینده خود بسازم و آینده از این کشور.
I do not have the full support of my family, especially my father. He never prevents me from taking part in music making, but at the same time, is not also encouraging me. But it's my choice and it's my life, and I want to stay in music, and I want to change Afghanistan through music.
Thank you. Mina, how is it
yes,
with you?
I do have. Yes, my family always support me, especially my mom.
That is really lovely to hear. Mosdagh, if I'm not mistaken, and you also mentioned your mom, you have parents that are really, really strongly supporting you to do all that you do, even when you are getting threats, even when you are in dangerous situations. How is it that they are I think, quite different from the traditional Afghan parents, at least from what I've read or from what we talked. How do you explain this? Why are they so different in this?
This is very interesting to me, and it gives a different perspective, or it gives me a different perspective when I see someone like Marzia, who is fighting to be able to continue her musical education. And at the same time, she's saying that, she lives for herself. Those are some powerful words that she said. She's an incredible, incredible girl. I mean, I watched the documentary. I cried many times throughout the documentary, but at the same time, I really saw Marzia as my hero, my personal hero, because me growing up, my father was the one that, when I turned 16, told me that, I should only live for myself, and that I shouldn't worry about what others think of me. And I should never live for other people and do what makes me happy. And at the same time, they're the ones that encouraged me and almost forced me to get into music, to try to make a difference, because my father is a feminist, and he did think that, he could do, continue his feminism the best way possible through his own daughter. And so, of course, I grew up under his influence, and he's someone that I look up to and admire so much, and I just wanted to make him proud. But when I see someone like Marzia, who has this in her, and there's no one telling her and no one giving her that direction, and she's got it on her own, I really truly see her as a true leader. And it's just incredible to see that somebody has that in them. And when it comes to my parents, I just feel very fortunate. I've been very lucky. I don't know how, but my father is, he's very progressive. He didn't really focus too much on my brothers, but he focused a lot on me, and trying to instill that confidence and that strength, throughout my life, constantly giving me advice. And then, of course, my parents actually fully supporting my music career, financially, emotionally. There were times when I was crying and I was about to quit because I couldn't do it anymore, because people were being mean to me. I was one of the first females to, get back out there after years of war, and after the Taliban. And it was really hard for me to take the reaction of many people who were trolling and being very mean with their comments, and saying someone should put a bullet in her head. She's a disgrace to Afghanistan, and women aren't supposed to be doing this, and how dare she come out and dance and prance around on stage, and she should be killed for what she's doing. This really hurt me. And so I wanted to quit, and they would sit there and talk me through it. And they said, this is what they want. They want you to quit. As soon as they see a girl or a woman rising, the extremist mentalities, they try to restrict that, and they try to suppress and stop you from continuing. And so we're going to make sure that we give you the strength that you need to continue going on. So I don't know how I was able to be this fortunate, but at the same time, it gives me perspective when I see someone like Marzia really fighting to be able to continue her music. And I want to do more. It makes me want to do more.
I must say I absolutely admire all of you. Either the girls in Zohra, Dr. Zarmast, or also you, Mozdach. I can't imagine going through something like that, receiving threats like that. And really what you are all doing is extremely important and amazing. And I would like to ask Lucia, since you are from a completely different context, but you also don't have a job that would be warm and in an office. How do your parents perceive what you are doing, and do they support you in it?
Well, yes, of course. I think here in Slovakia, we tend to kind of close ourselves in the little shell and think like how bad it is here, and like things don't work. And but like if we get out of the shell and look at on a different parts of the world, like in Afghanistan, when the problems are 10 times bigger, and the people what they go through, I cannot imagine in my childhood to be dealing with such restrictions. I don't know how the girls do it, but I can't imagine it on my own. So I think the message is important, is extremely important even for people in Slovakia, to not get like too comfortable, and so they won't think like everything is collapsing on their head. There's people have it way worse in different parts of the world. And yes, my parents understand that. They understand the message that I'm trying to tell, and they support me.
That's really great. You did touch one issue that I think is very important. In your opinion, why should people here in Slovakia care about what is happening in Afghanistan? Why should they watch the movie? Why should they listen to discussions? Why should they think about it, in your opinion, Lucia?
Yeah, well, I think we are like one people. It doesn't matter like what nation, we come from, and what happened in Afghanistan, same thing can happen anywhere in the world. It can happen in Slovakia, it can happen in Germany, like some crazy people gonna overthrow the government because people give them trust. It is possible. It was possible in Afghanistan, it's possible here. So I think like people should really value human rights and freedom the most. And all of us have to be very careful what the politicians, what agendas are they pushing. If like the well-being of the nation and of the people is on the first place. Like for me, the human rights are like the most important document that is in the world, and all the policies like should be done according to this document. So it's important for us, it's important for everybody.
Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more. Yes.
May I add also here? For Lucia to take all the risk to come to Afghanistan and to tell the story of Zohra Orchestra or the job that we are doing here in Afghanistan, it also shows to the people around the world, especially to the European countries or to the Western countries, that people and the young generation should also begin appreciating through the story of Zohra Orchestra and how the children of Afghanistan are struggling to get their musical rights, including risking their life. So it shows also to the people in Slovakia that everything that they have there for granted, people are risking their life to have access to them. So it will enable the youth of Slovakia and the people of Slovakia to better appreciate the condition in which they are living and the opportunity that they have there. So that's important to note here. I also would like to compliment the parents of Mujda Jamalzadeh for supporting their girls in music and music education. The only point that I want to make here that the parents of Mujda Jamalzadeh, and we are the product of a different Afghanistan. When we grew up in an Afghanistan where girls were highly respected, where human rights were expected, and where men had high respect for the women and women's rights. So we are the product of a different time. And when we are talking about today's Afghanistan, we cannot blame the entire nation for the attitude of a narrow-minded, restricted group of people. It's the condition. The people of Afghanistan, the youth of Afghanistan, especially the families, they went through a very tough time. The very draconian policies towards women and women's rights and arts and culture. So it takes time to re-educate the people in Afghanistan and also to create those opportunities in which Mujdajan's parents and how we grew up. So we are trying to bring in Afghanistan in which we grew up and to give the same opportunity to the kids who are currently growing here in Afghanistan.
That is absolutely true, Dr. Zarmast. Thank you so much for pointing that out. I just wanted to say he is absolutely right. And I should have known that, because if my mom was sitting beside me right now, she would have answered exactly the way that Dr. Zarmast did, is that, you know, Afghanistan, as you all know, was not like this before. And at one point, there was a lot of respect and a lot of freedoms given to women. And this is the generation that my parents grew up in. So this is very important for people to know, that there is like Dr. Zarmast pointed out, a minority, you know, of extremist mentalities that have are the loudest at this time, and they are the most dangerous. And so this is why a lot of people tend to try to stay within those confines of, you know, those ideologies, just to try to keep themselves safe. But people from those generations who ended up living abroad, it was a lot easier for them to allow their children to live the same way and have the same freedoms that they did at one point. And I think my mom's biggest struggle all the time on social media is trying to tell people, if I'm dressed a certain way, or if I'm doing something, or, you know, continuing my music, she always has to defend me and point out that when she was in Afghanistan, she had those freedoms as well.
I think you all touched a very important point there, and I would like to follow up with a question. Why do you think it is that it's always women in the first line who are being restricted, who are being pushed to the back, pushed into the homes, out of the education, out of the social life? Any of you who would like to address this?
I think it depends who we are when you are coming to the power here in Afghanistan. But women are women are half of the population of every single country, and therefore their rights, their life, especially in within the radical forces, within the extremism, within the people who have a very, very narrow interpretation of the holy Islam. Based on their narrow interpretation and ignorance, they are putting women in full front of their policies and their politics, when in reality it's not the policies of the people of Afghanistan. There was one of the reasons that back in 1980s, when Afghanistan was in war, when the leftists were running the country, again in that stage, women were also in the center stage of the fighting, because the leftist regime was promoting women's rights, gender equality, empowerment of the girls, and representation of women in all aspects of life. But on the other hand, that progressive idea served as a foundation and basis for the radical forces to claim that Islam is in danger in Afghanistan, because have a look, they're forcing our women to have access to education. See, there's another example. They are forbidding early marriages. Have a look, they are forbidding forced marriages. So it was always, and it's not that always that every forces in Afghanistan, they're pushing and putting the women here in a corner. It depends on who you are and what's your agenda for. Like for me, women's rights is an important issue. I strongly believe that without women, Afghanistan cannot progress. If we're not respecting the rights of the Afghan women and we do not create opportunities for them, how we can progressive, how we can be chasing with the world, how we can reach where Slovakia stands today. It's not the mentality of the people that were the people of Afghanistan that they put women behind the cage. A good example is the presence of girls today in education in Afghanistan. During the Taliban time, there was not a single girl who was not enrolled in the school in the country. But today, when the people of Afghanistan get their freedom back and they've got an opportunity to select what's good for them and for their kids, today we've got out of 9 million young kids enrolled in the school of Afghanistan, 30% are girls. It clearly shows that the people of Afghanistan are not radicals. The people of Afghanistan do not believe in extremism. They believe in equality, and they would like to give the same opportunities to their girls, the one that they believing is good for their boys.
Thank you very much. Mozdah, would you like
Absolutely,
to
I
add
completely
something
agree.
for Lucia?
I completely agree. Sorry, Lucia, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that like this like small group of narrow-minded people, I think they are in every country and they are fighting, to get support.
Yes.
And if it happens, it can get very, very dangerous, and it can bring the Middle Ages back. Yeah, and that's the thing would happen in Afghanistan. So I think that's why the message of the film is so important, because we have to be aware, even in Europe, even in Slovakia, we have this small group of extremists that are promoting crazy ideas, but that's not the majority of the people, and that's important to understand.
Well, in Afghanistan, like Dr. Zarmast pointed out, they're also the minority, but they're being allowed to enforce these ideologies and on people in general, because we've allowed them to get to that dangerous level. And I think, like you said, Lucia, they're everywhere. These extremist mentalities are everywhere. I see it in the U.S. They're our neighbors, and the things that go on there, and the suppression and the oppression, like the things that women are going through right now. They're trying to get rid of abortion, and like in some states, and I can't believe that's happening right here in North America. So it's like that everywhere. If you give them power, they will. And like Dr. Zarmast pointed out, it's for their own gain. Like if there are certain groups of men who, if it doesn't benefit them in a way, like when that time. During the war, the far left were giving women certain freedoms. Some of these men were afraid that they wouldn't be able to marry a girl who's 12 years old, because this is going to be not acceptable any longer. And so they're looking at their own benefits, and they're seeing what their losses are going to be. And of course, they try to instill those ideologies in the general public, to make them think that it's okay to have child brides and marry someone who's 9 years old or 12 years old, or they think that if you allow women to start to educate themselves, that they will know their rights and they will stand up for themselves and they will defend their own rights. And that's what they don't want, is they want to restrict and oppress women as much as they can, so that they can have full control over them. And these are the insecure men in general. Here, when I see those types of men, I see that those are the insecure men who don't want to see a woman progress. But in Afghanistan, like Dr. Zarmast said, in order to have progress in any nation, if you look at all the nations that are very, very successful, you see men and women both working side by side, in the workforce, in schools. And Afghanistan has a very, very long way to go to catch up with the rest of the world, but it is moving in that direction. And having these peace talks with the Taliban is the worst thing that can happen to Afghanistan, because all of that progress that has happened in the past 2 decades is just going to go away.
And this is actually something that I wanted to ask you as well. Do you think, is it even possible to gain peace with Taliban still present, and with these talks with Taliban, and with legitimizing them after what's been happening the past years?
Well, maybe I can answer just from my perspective is that I feel kind of connection because we went through communism in Slovakia, so we have a little experience of like how it works when like small group of people is restricting everybody else. But sorry, I got lost there. What was the question?
The question is if it's even possible, because they are called the peace talks, but they are with the Taliban.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah,
even
yes,
possible to
exactly.
talk about-
Sorry. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That like in 1989, when we became free country, that like all the other like politicians and police, you know, who did the horrible things to people, they weren't criminalized, and that was a huge mistake. Because if we don't say, okay, this is what you did is wrong, you know, and you need to be charged for that, and you need to get some sentence, it's super important for the nation. Otherwise it takes way longer time to get over it. So that's why like I think like the peace talks in Afghanistan, they should be stopped, and everything what the people did, they had to be named and they had to be punished for what they did. Otherwise it's gonna take so much longer for the society to heal.
Thank you, Lucia. Dr. Zarmast?
Yes, if I want to hit here, it will be very unjust to compare Taliban with the communism. There's a big difference between these evil forces with whom we are dealing in Afghanistan and comparing them with the communism. But by the end of the day, I'm not justifying the communism regimes, but even from the very basic perspective, these two are incomparable. Here we are dealing with a group of ignorant, radical forces who do not believe in anything else rather than suppressing the people and pushing their own ideology on the expense of every single rights of the people of Afghanistan. When we are talking about the peace talks, yes, peace is important. The people of Afghanistan are tired from the 40 years of war. But the people of Afghanistan want a dignifying peace, a peace settlement in which women's rights will be respected, a peace settlement in which the musical rights of Afghan people will be respected, a peace settlement in which, under any name, women will not be pushed back to their houses, a peace settlement in which the children's rights would be respected, a peace settlement which would allow a strong presence of men and women equally in society, contributing to the betterment of their country. But I strongly believe currently the way the peace talks are going in Qatar and the way the Taliban are currently acting and behaving, it clearly demonstrates they did not change. Still, they are trying to push their fascistic approach towards peace and to impose their supremacy on the entire people of Afghanistan. Regardless, and they clearly show that they do not have any respect for diversity. Afghanistan is a very diverse country. Ignoring the rights of any minority groups or any group, you're not bringing a long-lasting peace in Afghanistan. And therefore, I strongly believe pushing towards dignifying peace is significantly important. Bringing peace to the country is significantly important, but the bringing peace to Afghanistan should not be on the expenses of human rights and restriction and silence of the people of Afghanistan once again.
Thank you very much
I
for
couldn't
these
agree
strong
more.
words.
Yes. I could not say it as well as Dr. Zarmast explained it. That was very powerful. And all I have to add to that is that this is a terrorist organization. We have to remember that you cannot have peace talks with a terrorist organization. As well, they're going to restrict. They're actually basically, in order to bring peace, you're sacrificing half of Afghanistan's entire population, which is women. And like everything else that Dr. Zarmast pointed out with the minorities. and it's just going to be a terrible thing. And I think that the international community should intervene and should stop this from happening, because I think during his time, President Trump just wanted to, start these peace talks, and some of the Afghan members in parliament decided to continue this again for their own gain, for their own benefits, and this is going to be a big sacrifice for all of the progress that has taken place in Afghanistan the past 20 years, with the international community working so hard to build a better Afghanistan and work towards something better for that country. It would be very, very sad and unfortunate to see them come back.
But
Yes, so
let me to add
Dr.
also
Zarmast.
here. Let me to add also here. We living here in Afghanistan, and we experience on a daily basis what's happening currently here. On one hand, the Taliban are talking about peace, but on the other hand, on a daily basis, they're killing the youth of Afghanistan. They're attacking educational institution. Recently, they attacked Kabul University, which is a crime against humanity. I strongly condemn that inhuman, barbaric act, going to classroom, to university, killing innocent boys and girls without, regardless of who they are. It is a crime against humanity. It clearly shows that how much the Taliban are scared and fearful of the youth of Afghanistan. How much they know that the youth of Afghanistan are the force who are going to stop them to coming back into power. Educated young people of Afghanistan are not ready to compromise their freedom for anything else. And that's why the Taliban are currently going to selected a new tactic for their terror, going to universities, to school, attacking universities, attacking cultural centers, attacking individuals who are of influence to this country, individuals who can bring changes to the country, individuals who can change the mentality of the young people. So in such circumstances, how you can talk peace to a group of people who in one hand killing, increasing violence against the entire population of Afghanistan. But on the other hand, they're trying to talk peace, and at the same time, through the peace conversation or peace talk, promote their own ideology and trying to get power in order to deprive the people of Afghanistan from every single human rights and suppress the people of Afghanistan once again. But I personally strongly believe in the youth of Afghanistan. I strongly believe that the Afghanistan of today is not the Afghanistan of 1996. The new generation of Afghanistan will not allow anyone to return the wheel of history backward and to deprive them from their basic rights and freedoms.
Absolutely.
I thank you, Dr. Zarmast, for these very strong words, which are so true. And it is something that I actually wanted to point out, this terrible terroristic act of killing young students. I think it just shows how afraid they are of education, how afraid they are of knowledge that can push a country forward, not backwards like they want to.
Exactly. The only
Because
alternative to radicalism is education.
Mosdach?
Oh, no, sorry. The delay. I was speaking, but I think I cut off Dr. Zarmast. If I mind.
No, I believe I finished, but I said I strongly believe that the only alternative to radicalism is education, investing in education. This is the only way to enlighten the people anywhere in the world to stand against radicalism, whatever it's religious radicalism, or whether it's ethnic radicalism, or whether it's a nationalism, extremist nationalism. It's education that would enable to people to distinguish what's good for them and what's bad.
I completely agree, and I think this is something we have to also remember in countries that are democratic right now, that we need to continue with education. We need to continue to be careful because we are never absolutely safe in this matter. I do have a few questions. We will have to end in some time because Dr. Zarmast and the girls have to return in the evening. But we have a few questions from our viewers that I would like to address. Well, first question is for Mozdach. Whether you had to leave out any specific topics during your show in Afghanistan because of the censorship?
Yes, absolutely. I think I actually forgot to wear my hijab, my headscarf, in 2 episodes that we were filming back to back. And, you know, I forgot. They were not allowed to air those. And now, after so many years, I'm able to go back, and none of us, I mean, female singers, have to wear the headscarf, and none of us have the same restrictions in clothing. At the same time, I think I basically covered everything that I wanted to cover because, like I said, the TV station was very, very progressive in the way that it thought, and it did really, want women's rights. And we were on the same level in that way. But I think when I wanted to discuss divorce, because too many young women were setting themselves on fire. It's a way that they learned to commit suicide when their situation was getting so dire. And I wanted to tell the families of these women, these young women, to think about their family member and not worry about what others are going to think, and just save them from a horrible marriage, save their lives, because they are, imagine how bad somebody's life would be that they would actually willingly set themselves on fire to end that. And so that broke my heart when I heard these women's stories. And I wanted to talk about divorce. And in that case, I wasn't trying to promote divorce, but I wanted to say that if it gets to that point, wouldn't it be better if, they actually accepted alternatives to these young girls setting themselves on fire and committing suicide that way? And that was pretty much the end of my show, because the TV station was against this topic. My own family members said, I'm pushing it, I shouldn't do it. And when I finally did it, I got my way every single time, but this was the last one because they forced me out and they stopped the show.
Thank you. We do have one, not question, but I think a note for Mozdach. Salam, you are true heroes. Keep doing your great job and stay safe, all of you. I used to work with Afghan refugees in Slovakia, and the girls loved Mozdach and were so proud of her. So even
that's
the
so
girls
sweet.
here in Slovakia.
That's
knew your
amazing.
work.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those sweet, kind words.
We also have a request for the girls if they could play something for us, but I already asked that Dr. Zarmast in the beginning. Sadly, they can't get to their instruments right now because they are locked in the school, but otherwise they would play. But I really recommend watching the documentary where you can also see the girls play and listen to their music. Maybe
And they play
one last
beautifully.
question. They do. They do. I also played violin for 12 years, and your music just really speaks to my heart, girls. And Dr. Zarmast, I love Zohra and your music. One last question.
Thank you very much.
For Lucia, what was going through your head at the precise moment when you decided to change the topic of your documentary? Lucia.
Well, that's a difficult one. I don't know what was going through my head. I think when I came to Afghanistan and I met the girls and learned about the message that they're promoting, I think I was completely stunned by it. And Marcia was the perfect protagonist who just filled up, all the boxes. And she really takes this message forward as her personal. So I think that was the most important, and that's the message of the film as well. I mean, things would happen that we couldn't plan, and we just been there. That's the beauty of documentary. That sometimes things happen and you don't expect them at all, and you can't prepare, and it just depends what you do on the spot. So we just dealt with it on the spot, and I think in the film we got the main message of the orchestra through. And I would like to thank so much, to Dr. Ahmad and to girls and to Marcia, because we made her life difficult for a few days because with the crew and the filming it was exhausting. But thank you so much to open your homes and your school to us. Without you there would be no film. So thank you so much.
I just want to add here one more word about Marzia, that since the Slovakia tour, there's been a lot of changes in Marzia's position in the school. And now she's conducting the Zora Orchestra, and she had a big public debut last December here in Kabul, which was very well received. So maybe next tour to Slovakia will be Marzia will be conducting the Zora Orchestra.
I think that is amazing. Congratulations. And we all really hope that the pandemic will ease up and we will be able to see you once again during the Pohoda Festival here in Slovakia. That would be amazing.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We're going to make it once again there.
Thank you very much. I would like to end this discussion with a little bit of hope. And I would like to ask all of you if you could tell me what gives you hope. Dr. Zarmast.
The youth of Afghanistan.
Yeah, Mina.
My friends.
What is it? Your friends?
Yes.
My music.
Your music. Lucia?
What me gives to me, like all the brave people and the incredible people that I meet, they give me hope because they can change the world.
Thank you, Mosda.
For me, all of these strong, incredible, intellectual people like Dr. Zarmast and my father, who encourage women and give them their voice and give them that strength and allow us, or just know that we women have the right to be as much a part of society as men do. Men like that and the younger generation and the younger men who think like that, I think that definitely gives me hope for a better future for all of us. But like Lucia said, I think we have to all be very vigilant and just, be aware and fight against injustice. And I thank all the men who support women, and that gives me hope.
Thank you. I must say that all of you here give me hope because your activities are really amazing. And I am honored that I was able to talk all of you today. And I would also like to tell our viewers that they can watch our discussions through bodka.tv. And the movie, The Orchestra from the Land of Silence, will be viewable until tomorrow noon on the page of One World Festival, Jeden, svet, bodka.tv. So you can still watch the movie. So once again, to conclude, thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was an
S nimi alebo bez nich. S nami alebo proti nám.
Je to veľmi výnimočný rok.
Spolu alebo o samote. Teplo alebo teplejšie. Zostať alebo odísť. Tvoja voľba